Restaurant Unstoppable. Inspire, empower, and transform the industry.
I'm looking at the time here. I'm losing track of time because I'm really enjoying our conversation. We do got to talk about Axial. So what was going on in your business where you needed a solution, and what was your solution, and like how did that become its own company?
Yeah, so we had built our own little internal restaurant software just to take the fray off the edge a little bit and a couple things.
What was the pain? What was going on? The edge off of what?
Well, so we just wanted to consolidate information a little bit, but after a while, like you kind of look up and restaurant managers were using like 7 different pieces of software.
Okay.
Right? And so there's this gap between, like, coming up in restaurants, you had these restaurant managers that were super experienced, the GMs, and a lot of times you even had office staff in restaurants to support. And as margins got compressed and it became more and more competition, office staff went away, and you started to see younger and younger managers coming into the industry. And what these people desperately needed was people to invest in their knowledge on how to run a restaurant, how to run service, not how to make spreadsheets. Incidentally, they're a lot more comfortable with computers than a lot of the people who were previously in the industry, right, in those roles, the general managers that they were working for, right? Yeah. And so you see this gap where they're like the admin managers in the office all the time, and the general managers, just on the floor, and then they get pushed into general manager roles. They don't really know how to run a restaurant, and not through any fault of their own. They just haven't been positioned that way. And so we thought, you know what, like, what if we eliminate everything that isn't a core function to running a restaurant from their admin duties?
Give me some examples of what those
well, so like making a nightly email, right? Sitting there and like transposing information from a point of sale system to like this year's sales, last year's sales, this kind of stuff. It's like, it's just not a good use of time. Yeah. Right? And so that's still necessary with a lot of POS systems.
What's another example?
And then even merging in like shift notes with that and all the things they do. Merging that in, like tracking vendor. So essentially, we said, look, we just want our manager, we want to drive sales and reduce turnover. Those are the 2 things we want to contribute, right? And we want to happen in our stores. We want our managers to be able to run restaurants and not feel like they've got to work 70 hours a week doing it, right? They need to be able to like have a family, live a normal life, and work a reasonable number of hours and deliver at a high level.
Got it.
Right, which are juxtaposed in most restaurant.
And your solution, it sounds like up to this point, is eliminating the things that we no longer need to do because there's a technological solution for that.
Yeah, like let's use technology where it can be used, and then at the same time, let's develop these people. So a lot of times, I mean, it takes people like 5 years to learn to read a P&L, right? Yeah. If you show it to them monthly. It takes repetition, right, to gain understanding. And still, if you're reading a monthly P&L and there's 3 managers, how do you know what your real role in that is? Yeah. Right? But there's the data generally available to run a nightly P&L on an automatic basis. Yeah. And so our idea was take this nightly email that they're building, eliminate it, but also eliminate them having to do it, but also expand it to essentially be a nightly P&L that gives them context. So what we've discovered is if you share information with people at high frequency and in context, and it's relevant to them, they're going to capture it. Yeah. Right? And they're going to grow really fast.
So really what you're doing is trying to streamline the process of getting the information and communicating it in a way that isn't just a bunch of numbers, but there's context involved.
Yeah, and then helping people put controls around. So we're trying to drive sales and reduce turnover by investing in the people. Okay. And so everybody at every level of a restaurant organization has the ability to contribute more if they're aware of what their contributions are, and you're helping them understand how they can improve.
So that I think you just answered the question I had. And originally I was thinking to myself, it sounds like you're just streamlining a process and you're really saving money with eliminating work because there's software to do that. But what you're doing is you're using that information to paint a picture of the health of your business. And you're communicating the health of your business. And you're also communicating what your efforts and how your efforts affect the health of your business.
Yeah, so there's lots of different, and there's lots of ways we do that. So like we have a mobile app that they run in real time, and it shows them sales right now versus the 3-year historical average for the same day of the week up to the same time for last week. But there's 3 ways people learn. Like generally, people want benchmarks to work against. They learn graphically, or they're data-driven, right? And so everything we represent is in context of historical performance or the plan that they've set out in the case of labor or purchasing. And we represent it with a benchmark. Here you're doing better than expectation by this much percentage. Green arrows, red arrows down, green arrows up. You're doing better than expectation against the benchmarks. And graphically, here's how you perform against historical performance or your plan. And then here's the raw data, what that looks like.
So you're gamifying. We're
gamifying and we're capturing the different learning types and positioning it so people understand what their contributions are. And when people know what their contributions are, they can manage their performance and they can self-manage. And even when that's for the managers. For the employees, we show them their total sales, their sales per hour, their credit card tip percentage, their check average, key metrics, right? But then we show them where they rank relative to their peers over the last 2 weeks as their current rank.
What about relative to themselves in the past?
And we can chart them out relative to everyone else over the last 4 periods.
Okay.
So they can see how their performance is moving relative to average.
Yeah.
And then they can use that to grow. And our whole thing is like, you never humiliate somebody.
Yeah.
You show, so when they see where their rank is personally, but when they click into it, they can see everybody else, but only the people who are above average.
Okay.
So if there's 14 servers, you'll see the top 7 servers and their ranks and their data. But then below average, you don't know like if I'm one place out of the average or last place. You don't know that, right?
Yeah.
I know that. When I log in, I can see that I'm in last place or I'm one place out, but nobody else can see it. So the goal is if I make everybody want to be above average and I help them see who else is above average so they can model behaviors after what those people are doing, everybody's trying to be above average moves. The servers are making more money, the restaurants making more money, customers having better guest experiences.
So when did you start working on this?
So I spent basically 2014 and 2015 trying to talk a couple other software companies into doing it. One of them was just like, look, we're just trying to get on the internet. And another one was like doing something else. The board didn't agree. Like,
was this Swipely by any chance?
No, I'm not gonna say who they are, but one of the founders wanted to do it, and then some of the board members were trying to. Everybody was going different directions.
Because it sounds very like what you're describing sounds similar to what is now Upserve. Swipely was doing with just getting that data and using that performance. So I guess my question is how is what you're doing differently? Because with Swipely and Upserve, I think it was a whole suite of tools you needed that captured that data, but what were you using? I mean, I guess is it like what is what you're doing? How is that different from like I don't know if you're familiar with Upserve or Swipely?
Sure,
doing, but
yeah,
is it similar to what that data they have and
server
performance and stuff?
So everybody's got a lot of that data.
Yeah,
it's not the data, it's how you instigate action using the data.
Okay.
So what our platform is designed around, like our platform has
behavior.
Been iterated and iterated and iterated. I mean, dozens or hundreds of times in some cases, some interfaces, to cause the people using it to take action that delivers a result, right? And that has exactly. It's a mix of psychology and analytics and education.
Yeah.
And then operation. So it's technically, I guess, an operating platform where we start with stripping the data from the POS and then feeding it back, and then we help people. Like, so when we go to benchmark our sales projections, we're looking at our historical averages and our last week and all that, and then it's very quick to estimate your numbers, and then you're looking at historical labor and everything else. It's very quick to estimate that. When you make your schedule, the platform has a scheduler in it, has the projections in it.
Yeah. When
you make your schedule, it tells you you're on budget this day, you're off budget this day, et cetera. And then when you publish your schedule, it goes out to everybody. It almost, I hate the word democratizes, because I think it's like one of those big words that people just kind of like throw into conversations to make it sound cool. But it takes the data, it allows the employees a level of control over their own life.
Okay.
Right? So they have all the shift swapping and stuff like that, but they can even look at their own punches. And if one of their punches isn't right, they can put in a request, and it'll push notify the manager, who can then update, approve or deny it. So there's no more like 1 p.m. on a Saturday, you're in the middle of the brunch rush, and somebody scratches down on a piece of stained receipt paper, I got here at 11, and pushes it at you.
Okay.
And then shockingly, the manager forgets to update it, and then the paycheck comes out wrong, and then the employee thinks the manager doesn't care about him.
Right.
And that kind of stuff only gets to happen 1 or 2, 3 times before the employee's like, they don't care about me here, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And that turnover creates a negative cultural, and so everything has an effect, right?
Yeah.
And so by creating a culture where the employees have good feedback all the time, and they have a consistent expectation that they have some level of influence over, reduces turnover. So we issued almost half the number of K1s in the first year we implemented it.
Wow.
Versus the previous year.
So how many years have you been implementing it now?
Well, so we started in 2016 on our own restaurants,
Yeah.
and then in 2017 I got introduced to a friend who was a real estate guy who was like a main investor in a restaurant group, and the operator took off, and he ended up like, hey, I'm in the restaurant business now. And so I was like, we're not really ready, but you can be our beta customer and I'll help you.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of late night phone conversations coaching him into turning into a restaurateur. And then we went in and we tested this platform, and it took us like, I mean, the first one we installed took us like 3 days to get it installed in a store. Now it's like less than an hour.
That's awesome.
But we took a few years to get to where the installations were so fast that they would be like we could essentially, people could register, put their name, email, install. And then when they installed, it automatically finds their files on their POS, and boom, it uploads it all. It sets your whole system up. And that was the experience we wanted, because we wanted to be able to we wanted our customers to be treated like we wanted to be treated as restaurateurs. So everything we do, even like the way we position our pricing, the way we sell, like even the way we do our trials, like we do a second. We have 2 levels of our platform. One just feeds people the data that's already there and helps influence behaviors. The second helps them put controls in place. The level 1 requires they do nothing. They just consume, right?
Yep.
The level 2 requires a little bit of action. So we even when people upgrade to level 2, we give them another trial window that's 30 days free to just get them implemented, because we don't like charging people before they're getting the benefit of it.
So you're getting the data from level 1, which is spits out the information. Level 2, what exactly do you need to do? What is the action that the restaurateur needs to take?
Well, that's where they onboard all their employees to
Okay.
use the app, and that's where they start setting up projections and schedules. And
Profiles. Does every employee have like a profile, basically?
and they can do employee docs and stuff, and they can onboard everybody through it. And they have their scheduling in there. It's where and then they do all their, like, they purchase tracking, so they can upload invoices. So we got to set their vendors up. It doesn't take very long. It takes like maybe an hour a store to get somebody set up. But we just like for them to have a period to adopt it and let it make them money, and then we charge them, because like that's the way we would want to be treated.
So
right?
if we're interested in what you're sharing with us right now, like what things do we already need in place before we can invest in your asset?
What would somebody need to use Axial?
So is there a certain POS that needs to be in place? Do you only integrate with certain POS?
Yeah, so we started with Aloha because it was the biggest one in the market, and then now we're doing Square.
Okay.
And then there's a series of them behind that we're integrating to.
So Square for restaurants.
Yes.
Okay. Not the smaller rendition of Square.
Right, Square for restaurants,
Got it.
which we like, because we think there's a gap in the marketing between between in-store and e-commerce, and back to our branded products experience. We want to be able to tie those experiences together and use Axial to help with that. And
can I make any introductions? It sounds like you know a lot of people, but I feel like I can maybe introduce you to a few more POS companies. I'm happy to do it.
Sure. Yeah, happy to.
Yeah. Is there anything we haven't touched on yet? Or, I mean, I think we should probably let people know, like, we are interested in this and we are using Square. How do we reach out?
So our website's axialcommerce.com. It's AXIALCOMMERCE.
I'm not cutting you short, am I? As far as things you wanted to unpackage with that, because I feel like there's so much more we could probably talk about. But I know I want to respect your time too.
Yeah, no, you're not cutting me short. I mean, there's a ton there, and I love talking about it. Obviously, I get excited.
Well, there's tons of passion, man, and it sounds really interesting. I love that you're leaning into. I think that's the future. Is to one of the biggest lessons I've learned is business is just about relationships. It's relationships with everybody you come in contact with. And software is all going to evolve just to kind of be an extension of who we are. That's the direction we're going. And it's the end, like we talked about. Like, you got to understand the end user, and then reverse engineer it. And we are the end users. Like not just like how we identify, but how we function as human beings. We're learning more and more about human behavior every year. We're unpackaging more about us, and it's making us able to fine tune and tweak these technologies to serve us even better and better and better. And it's amazing where we're headed. And it seems like that, right? And you guys are taking, I don't want to say taking advantage, but leaning into it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything the restaurant industry learned from COVID, it's that your people are everything.
Yeah.
And people, especially as you're coming back and people are having trouble getting staff, like it's like the Mr. Miyagi thing. Like, I don't remember exactly the quote, but essentially it was like, the easiest way to not get kicked in the face is not be standing there when the kick comes. And it's like the whole thing is like, people want to have a role. They want to be developed, and they want to feel like they're growing.
Yeah.
And that's our thing with Axial. It's like, if you can give them that, it will drive the sales and it will reduce the turnover.
I love it.
And it's not magic. It's just treating people the way people want to be treated.
Yeah.